Hello, my name is Shannon, author of Blood of the Lily, and today I am doing the What Book Baby tag created by Bex on her YouTube channel, The Novel Nana. So let's get into it. Question number 1. What childhood book do you still own? Well, this question, it makes me a bit sad as I think about it because I don't have any of my books since before I was 12 years old, as my family lost our home to Hurricane Andrew down in Miami, Florida in 1992. I grabbed as much of my writing as I could before the hurricane came through and we were trying to outrun it, but we didn't have enough room in the car as there was 5 of us packed into there, into the Chevy Caprice, my mom, my dad, my 2 brothers, myself, along with our 150-pound mutt and 2 cats, one of which was dying of leukemia at the time. So the first book I have is from when I was 12. I actually stole it from my school, Mays Middle, which was a magnet program I applied to for writing and was accepted into. So this is it. It's Mythology, Timeless Tales of Gods and Heroes. And it's written by Edith Hamilton. You can even see, where's this Mays English department on there? And I stole it from them. Anyways, question number 2. What little golden book do you remember from childhood? Well, the book that I remember the most is Disney's The Aristocats. Don't know why. And of course, I don't have that book anymore. What book do you hate the ending to? And hate's kind of a strong word, but The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood has an ending that was so satisfying and ambiguous. And I mean, did the historical notes at the end mean that Offred survived? Was she part of the commander's downfall? Was Nick part of the resistance? And then as a mom, I want to know if Offred ever found her daughter again. Did she even see her or know what happened to her? The book is an awesome piece of speculative fiction, but for me, the conclusion lacked one important piece that literature needs to have, which is answering the major questions raised in the book itself. Question 4. What book do you wish had a sequel? Well, I wish there had been a sequel to The Princess Bride by William Goldman. For years, there was teasing and I guess some fictitious accounts that a sequel called Buttercup's Baby would be published. In the epilogue of later editions of the novel, the sequel was mentioned, but Goldman stated that Morgenstern's fictional lawyer was preventing its publication. And mind you, Morgenstern was also a fictional writer that Goldman made up. He was not a real person. And then in later editions, a sample chapter of Buttercup's Baby was included, and that is what I actually have. This chapter gives a glimpse into the fabled sequel and revolves around the kidnapping of Waverly, Buttercup, and Wesley's infant daughter by a skinless-faced madman. Now, the 30th anniversary edition promised to have the full version of Buttercup's Baby before the book's 50th anniversary, which is coming up in 2023. However, that seems highly unlikely now, given that William Goldman died in 2018. Question 5. What book made you cry? Well, I want to mention 2 books here because there was one that made me cry as a preteen and the other as an adult. And the first book that I remember crying over was when I was 12. It was right after the hurricane again. And that was Alanon's death scene in the Wish Song of Shannara. As he lays dying, he marks Bryn's line to succeed him because he was the last of the Druids. And I remember just crying and crying because he was this strong, magical being who had guided generations of Omsford through 3 books. And I just couldn't believe that he was being killed off. The second book that made me cry was Marion Zimmer Bradley's novel, The Mists of Avalon. I still have this book, although I cannot find it, still packed away in a box. But it relates the Arthurian legends from the perspective of the female characters. Morgaine persuades her lover to face Arthur in single combat to stop Arthur from bringing Christianity into Avalon. However, her lover dies, which sends Morgaine into shock. She finally mourns him and spends years away from Arthur and his world. Morgaine's internal monologue at this point in the story haunts me to this day. It was a long season of mourning, and there were times when I wondered if I should mourn all my life and never again be free of it. But at last I could remember without weeping and recall the days of love without unending sorrow welling up like tears from the very depths of my being. There is no sorrow like the memory of love and the knowledge that it is gone forever. Even in dreams, I never saw his face. And though I longed for it, I came at last to see that it was just as well, lest I live all the rest of my life in dreams. But at last there came a day when I could look back and know that the time for mourning was ended. I cried so much over that passage, and I've never forgotten it. Question number 6. What book made you laugh? Well, I have to use the same book as my answer to number 4, The Princess Bride by William Goldman. This was a very funny book and movie. If you've never seen either, you should go see or read it. Question number 7. What book do you often quote? Well, I kind of quote the same book again, The Princess Bride. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. So can you tell that I like The Princess Bride? My hubby also got me mini magnets with quotes from the movie and the book. So I really like these. Now, question number 8. What book scared you? Well, I have this one scene from one of Terry Brooks' books that haunts me. I'm pretty sure it was in The Elf Queen of Shannara when one of the characters in a traveling group is taken by a giant spider monster-like being, and he's gutted by the creature while in a giant spider web. And that image is so well described and horrifying for me, especially since I don't like spiders, and it hasn't left my imagination since I read it when I was like 12 or 13. Question 9. What book you did not finish, DNF? Well, several Stephen King novels. I tried to read some of his fictional novels as an older teenager because I wanted to see what made him successful. And I don't like horror, but I actually never made it to anything horrifying in the books as I could not connect to his writing style. I don't think I made it past the first chapter. However, his nonfiction book on writing is written in a conversational tone that is immediately captivating for me, and I still have that book. Question number 10. What book did you love that was made into a movie you hated? Well, honestly, hate is a strong word, and I don't tend to use it. So when it comes to this question, I don't hate any movie adaptation. I think books are always better than any movie, and it's just that some movies are less successful than others. Sometimes that simply comes down to the fact that a book can be a lot denser than a movie has room for. Sometimes scriptwriters can make changes to appeal to the market and audience, and it just doesn't work. But overall, I'm pretty easygoing about it because if the script changes the book or something different from the book, you simply have the same story but with a different perspective, and that can be interesting on its own. Unless the story falls flat due to plot structure, characterization, dialogue, all the stuff that's needed to create a successful story. Question 11. What book changed your life? I don't know that any one book can take precedence over another. Every book inspires me to, 1, be the writer I want to be, and 2, be a better writer in some way. Whether that inspiration comes from specific writing elements or from the language itself and how it's used in the book. I suppose there are books that could qualify as less inspirational, but even those I can learn something from, like how can I do something more successful that this book has failed at? Well, those are all the questions. Thanks, Bex, for making them, and thank you guys for hanging out with me.